So now let's get back to, I think, our one of, I won't say one of anything else, but I mean, the passion that you have sustained for almost 8 years now. So I think if I'm right, it was almost in 2007 when you got this, I mean, the connect with the so-called Manjunath, the episode there. So can you take us through those the initial days when you just got connected with this one?
Yeah. So there's a trust which runs in Manjunath's name called Manjunath Shanmugam Trust. They are the people who fought their case for justice.
Right.
One of the trustees called Anjali Mulati, she's from IIM Lucknow, but she's Manjunath's 10 years senior. She did not know Manjunath when he was alive. Manjunath is 2003 batch and she was 93 batch. As a matter of fact, she's my batchmate. I was from FMS 93 and she's 93, IIM Lucknow.
Okay.
But I did not know her then. I got to know her when I was working in Mudra in Bombay, and she was in Bank of America, I think, in Bombay. What I remember at that time of Anjali was that, like all top B school graduates, very intelligent, very good at her work, I guess, but extremely mercenary. That's what I remember, because the approach is that. So the move from one, I remember the move she was making from one career choice to another, and then I overheard her saying that if I don't get that much more money, I'm not going to move that day.
Take it or leave it.
Yeah, so I had asked her that time, that what about the job profile? She says, ho jayega. So that was Anjali I remember. And then I lost touch with her. And, I knew that she was going to get married to a person called Jaishankar, who was in Bangalore, one year senior to her. Then I lost touch with them. And then suddenly at ICOMO, I get a call in 2007. So this is probably around 6-7 years after I had last met Anjali. Where Anjali is on the line, on the landline she gets a call. She Googled me and she found that this is ICOMO and this is where I run the agency. And she said, Verma, there's a trust which I run and you must have heard of Manjunath. So I had vaguely remembered Manjunath from the newspapers. And so we are fighting this case for justice and we want some free creative material to be made. We don't have money, we want some posters to be made on Manjunath's life and some leaflet to be made, some booklet to be made and stuff. I had never done any pro bono work in my life. So I said, okay. So I said, when you come down to Bombay, why don't you have a chat with me? She was in Mysore, she was going through there. She was cool. Then next week she came and then she sat in my office and she told me that more detail about Manjunath himself, and that she and Jaishankar, her husband now, and some other people, all of them are connected with Manjunath in any terms of relation or personally knowing him when he was alive, had got together to form this trust to fight his case at great personal risk, at great financial risk themselves. And they were doing this out of donation from people. They had just opened up donation that, okay, they had estimated they need 50 lakhs to fight his case. The case was still on in Sessions Court, Lakhimpur. So I was quite staggered. Now if you see the way I mentioned about Anjali of earlier and Anjali of now, I could not believe that this is the same person.
Right.
Then I met many other people as part of my creative work for this thing, where I realized that a lot of changes had happened with a lot of people. So first thought which came to me then is that there is something which is moving all these people who were otherwise, very different, and now, now they are not thinking of themselves at all. They're thinking of something else and of trying to get this young boy justice. So that was the first thought which struck me. Then, because as part of my research for the posters and leaflets, I met some of Manjunath's friends and I asked them how Manjunath was in college. I had expected, what happens is these people who we expect to be idealistic, we expect them to be a little boring, frankly.
Right.
There are people who tell you not to smoke, not to drink, not to college, and you always tell them, let us party. But Manjunath was none of that. He was like all of us were in college.
Very bubbly and
very exuberant and very young,
Very social.
very social, very popular. He was made a lot of mistakes, like all of us, young mistakes. And he was also a singer. He was also a rock band member.
Very multifaceted.
Multifaceted, and yet there was an ordinariness about him in terms of looks, in terms of marks. He was very average, not a gold medalist or something like that. So I felt he was very identifiable. And what the question that struck me is that how come this person, who was like me in college in every possible way, did something so big, which I never had the courage for. So what is that graph? What happened with it? So I felt suddenly that was the first time it struck me, and I discussed that with Anjali, that this is a great story. It's a great story and very inspiring story of someone who, because we always hear of these movies made on great people like Gandhi.
So when you heard from his friends as well as Anjali, that's when you made a conclusion that
it has the potential to be translated into a story on screen, in principle. So I discussed with Anjali and she said, I'll tell you something very honestly, she said that I am not from the film world, but have been thinking like this, but I was scared to ask because I thought that how you think I'm being funny.
Sandeep, one small question that I have. So when you met up with these people and his classmates, maybe his friends, and maybe family members, and maybe Anjali and her husband, and all these people who you rightly said they didn't have any connect whatsoever. Do you find when you're conversing or when they're exchanging ideas with you, any contradiction between what they said?
Between what they said in sense?
In the sense, are everyone is each one of them communicating the same language, same purpose, same passion? So were they communicating the same thing, or did you find any contradiction?
No, there was a lot of contradictions. There were the different people. First of all, if you were talking about fighting the case together,
Right.
different people I felt were doing it for different reasons.
But what is uniting them was the purpose.
The purpose, the sense of purpose was the main thing. Different people were taking different things out of what Manjunath did as well. In terms of the inspiration which they were drawing was from different things of what Manjunath did. However, I think what I felt common, all of them had, was the indignation that they had. That how is it that someone who was primarily only trying to do his job can get killed so mercilessly at such a young age, and still not hope, and his parents can hope not to get justice? What kind of society are we living in? And if we don't do something now, then it will all rot away.
If it can happen to such a guy, so one can imagine.
It can happen to anyone. And I think the fact also that his parents and his family was from a very humble background, and they were
looking forward to. They're banking on him.
They were banking on them, and they were helpless. They were vulnerable. So I think that was something which was the common factor, which all of us felt, that indignation, that anger, so I think there are two aspects. One is that why they felt that indignation also was that one is that I think what Manju did itself was very pure. You could not find fault with anything with Manju did, including that.
Very pure soul.
Yeah, very pure. And second is also he was very young. So such a young person, Joy, dies, you feel really bad about that person because you had dependence.
For such very frivolous reason.
For very frivolous reason. So regarding how frivolous the reason was, that we'll come to.
Exactly.
But so that was what the common factor I felt was. Apart from that, there were different things which everyone felt.
Right.
Why they were drawing out of it. What else was there?
So the question that this is what was the initial trigger for you to have got connected with Manjunath, or let's say
The story.
Their story.
The extraordinary part of the story was what I discussed with Anjali and Jaishankar, and they also felt that there is a story worth telling. But that's one thing to decide that is a story worth telling, and to have it on the silver screen. First of all, even if one presumed that one had the wherewithal and the funding to do it, we need a script. So, because you can't have a story without research. So that's when I decided that. So I mean, I held off that for some time. But I knew the script for something like this had to be well researched. There was no money, and everyone who knew Manjunath was, most of them were not in Bombay, and I was based in Bombay. Even if I didn't take any fees, and fees of my assistants and research associates who would be with me, even then the sheer travel of it would cost so much money, plus so much of opportunity cost, because I would be away from ICOMO for many things. So I mean, there were many clients who would need my help, but I would probably earn more money with those clients. So I held it off for some time, and but then what happens with sometimes with some things is that they chase you, and
really it's your.
Yeah, so it kept on chasing me, and I felt that you know, I was also hugely inspired by people of the trust of Anjali and Disha. I said if they can do this for a stranger selflessly, then who am I? I mean, why am I trying to do this thing? So I said, okay, so let me just go around with them and just meet people and let me see. And I was half hoping that it will not turn out to be a very interesting story by meeting 5 people. So I went with them to one of the Sessions Court hearings in Lakhimpur. So one of the hearings was happening, so Anjali said, do you want to come? So I said, sure. So she said, you have to arrange your travel. Your stay I will arrange and I am Lucknow. So I said, okay, so I traveled on my own with one assistant. I want to take some still photographs and some videos in case I want to, for my research. So I went to IIM Lucknow. I stayed at the guest house, and so 5 o'clock in the morning, I was over knocked and saying, okay, we have to go to court. And 5 o'clock in the morning, so I realized that that's when it takes 5 hours to get to Lakhimpur, Lucknow. And Anjali Jaishankar and all the others who had been coming to attend the hearings had been strongly advised not to stay overnight in Lakhimpur because it's a risky place, and we were fighting against the mafia, the local mafia. So what they used to do is that every time they used to come and they used to start early in the morning, go there, reach at 10, which is the hearing time, full time, and evening it would get over by 2, 3 o'clock, and they would travel all the way back. And next day, फिर से जाना है तो again. So I said okay. So then I went in the car, and then.
It's very scary.
Yeah, so I mean, fortunately for us, we were with other people in terms of the lawyer. The IB Singh lawyer was there, and his associates were there, so they all put us at ease. They're all experienced people in the whole setup. So I mean, it's on that journey. I had a lot of conversation with the lawyers as to the implications of the case and stuff. I had a lot of conversation with Anjali, and I remember asking one question from her. Because I realized the kind of effort we were putting, because she was coming from Mysore to Bangalore to Delhi with one of the lawyers from Delhi to Lucknow to Lakhimpur, to do with this on an every month basis for almost 1.5 years of her life, with so much risk involved. It was tremendous to me. So I asked her that, you did not know Manjunath, he was 10 years your junior, so why are you doing all this for Manjunath? So she answered that I don't know whether I am doing something for Manjunath or he is doing something for me. So
Wonderful thought.
It's a wonderful thought. So that's when it struck me that all of these people were drawing something out of this story for themselves. It was giving them a renewed
sense of purpose.
Yeah, sense of purpose. And that's what has held me through this project. And I've always told people, and that's what I just said to you initially, that I've always held through all the difficult times that it's an absolute privilege to work on this. And actually that feeling when I put in the investment, when I decided to go for this, I thought to myself that I'm not going to do this if at any point of time I feel it's a labor. It has to be always feel like a privilege, otherwise I should not get into it. So I held that on to that feeling, and which I think gave me a fresh energy at every stage. Obviously you have difficult times. Then you feel that you're blessed. I mean, if you shouldn't have taken it up in case you didn't have the courage to go ahead. So that's what I drew from her. And then what happened is that as I went more and more deeper into it, even though I had hoped that I will not find anything interesting, I found more and more interesting things which were worthy of being translated onto the screen. So then I went on and on for many months. I went on researching and picked up incidents here and there. One problem which you face when you talk about someone who has died, especially that person's friends or colleagues, is that they always tell you nice things, and that's a bit of a problem because I wanted to make a real film.
Very balanced view.
Yeah, I wanted to not make a propaganda film.
Right.
Of course, he's a hero, and he had to emerge as a hero rather than already be a hero.
Exactly.
So I wanted to make him normal on screen.
Utilize all the.
Yeah, including the negative points if any. And that was very difficult to get out of people because who wants to talk badly about people
Especially who died.
Someone who died, and for the right things. So I used a lot of techniques, including sometimes to play the devil's advocate. I think Manjunath was not really courageous. So you would start to. We also, use some important fluids for research like beer and alcohol, just to get people talking. So all those techniques were used, and So finally, I kept doing this off and on with my assistants for around 2 years. And so I have now a big file of research of all the things which had happened.
And that made consisting of both pluses and minuses. Of
Pluses and minuses about Manjunath, about the trade. We consulted a lot of petroleum experts who were writing, but I didn't want to go wrong on the oil facts.
And also the local,
The local
the
people,
economics there.
the local economics, how it works, and nationwide how it works, policies wise, and what is the whole concept on whistleblowers. So we did all the backup thing because we wanted it to be sound,
Authentic.
authentic. Yeah. So, but you see, all of this thing was not still giving me a feature film script because it was good enough material for a documentary. Now, what happens is that in a documentary, it's a cold retelling of facts. A feature film is an emotional expression.
Right.
Finally, it has to emotionally move an audience, otherwise worthless. The reason I wanted to make a feature film and not a documentary because in India no one watches documentaries, frankly. There's no concept of watching documentaries only with the intelligence. I wanted to make a feature film because it appeals to common people, especially students.
It can reach to a lot of people.
Yeah. So the young was my main target audience, especially the urban young. And I felt they don't watch documentaries, and I felt that they would watch a feature film. So I needed an emotional point of view, which was
You have to speak their language as well.
yeah. So that emotional attitude happened in the film by one of my conversations, which happened at that stage, coincidentally with one of Manjunath's best friends, who is a big supporter of Manjunath. And I asked him, why do you think this happened with Manju? Why do you think he died? And he said, I think he was from the south and he went to UP and then he was a little naive.
Right.
And he maybe didn't realize the dangers. This struck me as wrong because I felt that was not possible. See, Manjunath was at IIM Lucknow not for 2 years but 3 years. He repeated 1 year because he had not performed well in the first year.
Is it?
Yes. So now if you're in an institute like IIM, you're not going to hold inside only the institute. You're going to go outside Lucknow. If you go to Lucknow, if you get off the railway station, for example, you will see gun shops outside. You can actually go, and I've actually negotiated to buy a gun, which I never did, without a license. The gun which they were selling for 2 lakh rupees, I got them down to 50,000 rupees. A nice international revolver. I could have bought 50,000 rupees. And then I asked him that you need to see a license. He said, "Hai to dikha dijiye, nahi hai to koi baat." That is the gun culture which exists. Now, if you got to be really stupid not to know the dangers in a place like this, obviously you people stay in Lucknow, people stay in UP, people stay in. But you see, if you travel the straight path, it's fine. You cross anyone's illegal money, then you are in problem. So Manju was an intelligent fellow. He was an engineer. He was an MBA. He was highly educated. So he couldn't have not. So my instinct was that there's something wrong in what this person is saying.
Maybe I think he chose to forget all it. That's what I think now.
So subsequent to that, after I am, Manjunath has served in Lakhimpur for 2.5 years. If you've been to Lakhimpur, you will realize it's a highly racist belt. Manju happened to be also from the reserved category. He was also dark skinned. If you're dark skinned and
acceptable is high.
you are from a reserved category, your unacceptability is very high in those areas because it's highly casteist. You remember this, that Manju's boss and Manju's dealer, who eventually killed him, were primarily the same caste. Before Manju was there was no sales officer in his position for many, many years. So dealing was directly between his boss and the dealer. When Manju comes in there, he stops all this flow which is happening, whatever that flow was.
He was a bit very constricted.
Yes.
Was stifled.
Yes. So all these angles told me that it's not possible for Manju not to have realized the dangers. And then I did some further research to find out, because I realized I spelled something there. And then I got to know that guns had been put to Manju's head when he was alive and threatened that you should get out of this place. So
and that is during this 2.5 years time. That
yes. In fact, in his last 6 months, guns had been put to it. So it was too close to his death. He had been threatened to get out of here, and he refused.
So he was sufficiently warned, if I may say.
He's sufficiently warned. So there is a difference between being naive and being courageous.
Right.
See, and this is this is something which I realized also when I met Manju's parents subsequently for my research. And I got a tremendous sense of, I was very surprised to find, I respected parents who were poor but very proud. But I found parents who were not proud but very hurt. Because they had been implied that Manju was stupid and naive. Now you can't tell a hero's parents that after he has died, he's given up his life for society. And to lose a young son and then on top of that being told that he was stupid, he could not adjust, is very unfair. Yeah. So I immediately I got that attitude into the film, to my script. That script became as if that script was trying to prove, trying to challenge the audience to answer this question for us, whether people like this are stupid or brave. You decide. There's a difference. Brave is what Bhagat Singh was. Everyone calls Bhagat Singh very brave. But in today's time, in my opinion, people like Bhagat Singh would be called stupid.
Absolutely.
So that became the attitude of the whole project.
So I think now that you were interacting with people and then you have put together this story, which you like to write, the script is ready. But then again, I think what we're discussing is maybe you want to cross-check the facts so that it becomes a balanced view, so that it's presentable and all that. And then, so when do you think, when did you decide that yes, now it is ready for feature film format? Was there any time frame? When did you decide that now it's feature film?
So basically, once I had the script, I did not. So two important things to do was for me was to get official permission from Manjunath's family,
Right.
And the trust which was fighting his case, and I am Lucknow, because I wanted to shoot inside I am Lucknow. I didn't want to show I am Lucknow and shoot it in Bombay. I wanted it to be authentic. So before I went to any of these people, I wanted to check whether I am on the right path in terms of script and whether it's worth it in the first place. So we did a lot of narration. So I mean, the best thing to do in that sense is, so what is it that the target audience is getting out of the script? It was very important for me to know. But what happens in movies is that there's usually one script is can be around 150 pages,
Right.
or 200 pages. So there are a lot of things which are written. A movie is not read, a movie is seen and heard.
Visualize.
Hence, if something is there in a dialogue, it may not be retained. Sometimes we need to put something in a film 3 or 4 times because
To
we
connect
want
the
it to
dots.
finally retain in the audience's head. So my view is that, and I think a lot of other people feel that, is that the movie which you make is not necessarily the movie which is watched. You need to worry about the movie which will be watched, not the movie which you're making. You can be over obsessed with your script, but finally how is it translating into the audience's head is what is important. So I needed to get across to my target audience. So which were urban young people below the age of 25, 26 or 27, below 27 actually. So I in batches I started calling them to my office, batches of 4 or 5, and booked 2.5 hours with them, 2 hours of narration and half an hour of discussion and their feedback.
So it was like a focus group discussion.
Yes, absolutely. It was very much like that. So
But if I'm right, correct me if I'm wrong, it must have been one of its kind in the country. Where people, they have shared the script, and then got the feedback, maybe you would have been talked to them, and then felt their,
I had never heard
feedback.
of anyone doing this. I had never heard of it. I don't know if there's a system of doing this, but I think there should be. I think I'm going to do it with every movie.
Well, and that too, you're very clear, maybe because of your background, advertising and brand management, and you're talking about your teacher is very important, and you're very focused on your teacher.
Absolutely.
And they're the ones who are invited for this focus. Fantastic.
Yeah. So obviously we told them we'll maintain confidentiality, and we made them sign something that okay, it'll be confidential because you can't go and reveal
Exactly.
what he made. So I mean, over a period of time, I think with around 100 youngsters, I must have.
How could you source these people? Were they known to you? Or
No, I mean no, not at all. I did not want people who were known to me, so they would be biased. If I'm their, brother's friend or something like
So
that.
what was the incentive if I may ask that they were very
Everyone's interested in movies.
That's it.
That's it. So everyone interested in movies, there's a movie script listing.
And they must have felt very interesting also
Yeah.
that I'm being made a part of.
Part of something. Which yeah, so that's something. We as an ad agency, we do have a presence in colleges in terms of people do come to us and apply for jobs.
Right.
So we do put up our posters sometimes if we have any vacancies. So they know about us. But also with young people in my company who went back to their colleges and said, hey,
And that place like Bombay, I think,
Yeah.
very open and very inclusive.
So I made sure that the gender balance was also correct.
Mhm.
I got males and females both.
Mhm.
Because sometimes what
And
happens
same age bracket.
below 27, so I would have got between people who I think started from 16 years of age to 23rd, 23, 24, 25, 26. So people, so obviously different stages of their life. Some still in college, some still in junior college, some have just started
Start working.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So that's the kind of thing. We also try to make sure that in one batch we don't call too many people who know each other, because then you tend to have
Influence.
a group opinion.
Exactly.
Then your friend is saying this.
Very biased.
Yeah. So whatever, this is like, I would call it back of the palm research. It's
Right.
not very scientific research, but
We have the feel of it.
have the feel of. And normally I noticed in such narrations is that I should not depend too much on what they say after the movie, after the script is narrated. That's the other part which is very important. While and I would make sure I am the one who's narrating. I'm reading it out to them because I will be able to explain to them the scenario of the scene and all that. So as I'm talking to them, I'm noticing them. See, movies are vast. You can sit and analyze later and try to act intelligent.
Right.
So what can happen with youngsters, we are meeting a movie director who is also an ad agency owner. They may want to join us tomorrow. First of all, they don't want to criticize too much. Second is that they for them, giving a feedback, imagine someone who's 18, 19 years old, giving feedback, they want to also find the right words to appear intelligent and articulate. Okay.
Something must be running the back of their mind.
So they have to come across as someone who, I know what I'm saying.
Right.
But as an audience, when you watch a movie, you don't try to appear intelligent. You
Right.
just watch it emotionally. So what was more important, that if I'm narrating an emotional scene, as I'm talking, I'm looking at their eyes. If I feel them getting a little emotional while listening, later on if they say the scene was not emotional, it doesn't matter to me. Because I know that time I saw you laughing or crying, or I saw you getting bored, and you're later on saying that it interested me, so
Right.
it doesn't work for me.
Right.
So that's the things which I assist my assistants, including Jeshil, was still working with me, used to note. I used to tell them from before that when these 5-6 parts are the ones which are most important in the script for me, for example.
They're all the touch points.
All the touch points. So all these touch points, you please notice all these people's reaction on their faces and eyes and note them down, and we can discuss that later. That will be more important to me than what they say later. So that also we will record. So, so we went through this process. Again, I think also happened apart from the movie making thing, I was also making a movie on a real person. I needed to be responsible towards what message is going across. So, and also since like I said earlier, my whole proposition was that one can take on content which is real like this and make it gripping in a commercial manner was the whole thing. So I wanted to check on that as well, whether I'm keeping it gripping and not being too didactic and preachy. So, so once we did that, I think we made many drafts of the script. After every 4 or 5 batches, we used to sit and collate and figure out where we are going wrong, where we are going right. Then I used to write again some parts to change where we felt those people are getting bored or losing interest. In fact, the film, if you notice, does not go too deeply into the scam. And the reason is that because I realized so a lot of yawns started coming from youngsters when we were getting a little too scientific about what's happening inside the whole market. So there was no point, after a certain point of information, it becomes overload. So there was no point overloading the film with that kind of information.
And it's an open secret, at least in India.
Yes. So hence I kept it down. After that feedback, we kept tweaking, then we arrived at what we felt that this is something which we can go with.
Which can hold on the attention of
Which can hold on attention. We can look to eventually shoot this.
Right.
With that, I spoke to the trust. And so first, because I felt they were the most people who would be more receptive to this thing. I told them that the script is ready, so they came over. One of the Jaishankar came to Bombay, and I narrated the whole script to him, and he liked it. There was no feedback whatsoever, nothing to change. They were absolutely fine with it. And then I asked them about Manjunat's parents. So they said, no, let us talk to the parents. We will talk to the parents because, you know, they're from a different background. They don't understand English or Hindi very well. They understand primarily Tamil. So then they spoke to the parents, and the parents assured me with a letter saying that if they had so much trust on the Anjali and this thing, that if Anjali and Jaishankar are seeing the script, then we are fine. So I said okay. And then, of course, trying to approach IIM Lucknow and stuff like that, difficult to meet them for this thing. And then eventually I got through with Sri Devi Singh ji, and there was not much time which he took to give us permission. It was, I think, more about whatever time it was, more about whether we would shoot with the official permission, during academic sessions, how much disturbance to students and stuff like that is what he was wondering about, I think, more. Also, he wanted to know whether there is anything controversial. We have to understand that some of these oil PSUs sit on that board. So that is
lot of preparation, lot of
preparation.
yeah.
But I think what has happened is that the IIM director has gone out of his way to actually support this film. Eventually, the times it so happened, there are all commercial causes, things which happen. So finally, when I told him that this is the period in which we want to shoot, they are dependent on many other things. UP has a certain sunlight during a certain month.
Right.
So visually, my cameraman said that this is the best season to shoot. It fell right in the middle of their academic session. So and when those guys were asking us to shoot, which is in the holidays, it was either too hot or too cold for the unit, and then we would not get enough. In the winters, you don't get enough number of shooting hours.
Exactly.
And in the summer, it's just too hot for the whole unit to go out and shoot in the open. So finally the director gave in and said, okay, you want to shoot in October, we will allow you to shoot in October also. So you just make sure that these are the where my classes are running, don't go anywhere close to that.
Right.
And don't use my students as actors or something like that. So I said, no, don't worry about that. So then it went off pretty smoothly, and we also made sure that, you know, film units can be a little messy, they'll smoke cigarettes and they'll keep it. And I said, no one's going to smoke inside the IIM campus, not allowed. So, plus also always clean up where you are, always clean it up. The 100 people standing at a place, they're going to eat food and something. So all those things were there, and not too much noise. So, but we shot there for many days, and our plans also changed sometimes. Sometimes we were supposed to shoot on certain day, and a lot of changes happened. But I think we got fantastic support from the IIM. So all those 3 tick marks happened, I think, because of the script. And so it's in a way paid off that the script was well researched and authentic, and I didn't unnecessarily try to create a scandal.